And here's your host, Goody.
Welcome everybody to the Gabbin With Goody Podcast. I'm your host, Goody. Here we are today with my good friend, fellow firefighter, and baking enthusiast, Corey. Thank you very much for opening up your home to us as we, on the podcast, are on the road again, going mobile here. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for the beautiful pizza.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Corey?
My name's Corey. I work at Ludlow Fire Department with my friend Goodrow here. Started, about 5 years ago. I was doing a lot of other things previously, landscaping and just irrigation work in that field. And then I figured, join the fire department. I had another friend that was working there, and he kind of pushed me into he didn't really push me, but he did the work. Told me how interesting it is, how different, doing landscaping kind of can get a little repetitive at times. So some family stuff happened, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to go into this. And yeah, next thing you know, working with you guys. Yeah,
and we love having you at the fire department, Corey. Just like all the other firefighters, very good guy.
Yeah.
Not to toot his own horn here, but good guy.
If I couldn't cook, I'd rather be out of the place.
And a very treasured cook for his crew.
Yeah. That's what they say.
That's what they say. So, speaking of cooking, let's talk a little bit about what got you into the whole cooking, baking, making your own breads and pizzas, and what got you into that?
I mean, I think I started brewing pretty much, and that's like the first kind of thing I started doing, and it was when I was probably 19, 20 years old. Little underage for making beer, but
we'll strike that comment. He's estimating. It's 21.
21 was probably the age. And so, you read a couple books. You're like, I'm gonna make it. First beer I made, it was terrible. It was this slop concoction. I still drank it. It was disgusting. But then I'm like, all right, how do we do this? And over time, got good at it, and I liked the process of it. It's this whole, you're making, I feel like Jesus. You're taking water. You're making alcohol.
All right, I got it. I get the reference there.
Yeah, you like that? He made wine, not
Jesus.
Beer. If he was a little better, he would have made beer.
Cool man, yeah. Jesus would have made beer.
Exactly, and it was the process. It's very therapeutic, should I say? It's it takes a lot of time. It's a long process. It's for like 4 hours long, but that's just like the brewing, and it's like you're boiling. So how long does that take? It takes a long time to do that, but there's little moments of that you have to do a lot of things at once. So I don't know. It was just an interesting thing.
And I would assume that there was probably a lot of like trial and error. Like you said, your first batch was horrendous, but you drank it anyways because there was pride in that. It's mine. Yeah, right. There's pride.
It didn't get me sick either,
which is also a plus.
I was estimated at 21, so that's what I had. That's what I had. I'm like, I'm going to work with this.
This is what I'm working with at 21 years age.
Exactly.
Yeah. He wasn't rich. That's. So they had to make his own beer at 21.
But just the process, it was really interesting, therapeutic. I loved it. And then after time, you get a little better, you learn a little more, you start getting interested in books and reading more about it instead of just kind of, not that I winged it, but I don't think YouTube was really a thing. So it was, remember like websites weren't like all just clickbait.
Yeah.
It was like actual stuff. So you'd have a couple recipes people would actually want to enjoy putting on there instead of, it was those kind of recipes that I followed, and they were actually helpful. So I'm learning through there, and then I became part of it's just like a subscription to the Brewers Association, but they provide you with more recipes, more information to get going. And then from this whole thing, it stemmed into, bread. And of course, when did everybody start making sourdough? Was COVID. Like everybody loves, like everybody's just, it blew up, and it blew up me. You're bored, you're home. And then I realized the connection between the two, and I was like, I like making brew. I don't do it as much anymore because I got the kids, but once they're a little older, we'll be back on it because I have all the equipment. But the bread is just, it's the same pretty much the same process. It's very slow, meticulous, therapeutic. The end result doesn't get you feeling good, but at the same time, it's like you made this
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
you feel good in a different way.
Yes, and you give it to people. People love it.
Yeah,
at least they say they do, and
stroke your ego a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a connection, shared connection between people and others. You're like, hey, I made this is for you. It's not just I do it for myself, but at the same time, I like having other people enjoy it. That's why turn into cooking. It's this whole like it's self gratification, but at the same time, it's giving other people.
Yeah, giving other people that same experience that you're enjoying. I mean, they don't enjoy they're not part of the cooking process, but I think in the end, you're like, oh, this is just as good. It's good for like I know for like when I do something for somebody else, whether it's like bring comic books to somebody or get somebody connected with their collections or things like that. I do have like a sense of pride.
Yeah.
And I think almost, obviously it's great to like sell things and like that on my front. But like to gift some of them, and like to see people like happy with what you're giving them and things like that, it is almost better than than the selling process. 'Cause I would much rather, give away all my inventory to my friends than sell it to some random guy who I can't see the reaction of them and whatever. But
yeah, for nickels or dimes of what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, and that's kind of like what it is. And like and I would assume that's the closest thing I can think of.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I want to say in high school or maybe like freshman sophomore year of college, I got a cookbook. It was the Firefighters Cookbook.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like in that book, I was grabbing like all these different recipes that I thought like my family would like. And it turned into me like, being like, hey mom, can you get me chicken, broccoli, whatever we're doing. We're doing pan fried chicken and broccoli with, pan fried noodles. And that was kind of something that I used to enjoy a lot. I cook now at my house a lot. My wife works during the day, so she's usually gone from 10. Her normal shift is 10 to 6. So she works about like 5-10 minutes away from our house. So I try to cook something for the family. And when I say the family, I mean my wife and I, because my 2 kids don't eat anything that I cook.
Yeah, my kids hate everything. My wife doesn't even, sometimes.
So it's really it's like a labor of love.
It is.
That's what we'll say it is. Yeah.
Once again, and it's a learning. Every time, I don't use a lot of recipes. I just try to like wing it. But the whole winging stems from me reading all these other things, a base of how to do everything. I always like that idea of like once you learn the concept, and you're just like, all right, well, I know how to make sauce now.
Yeah.
So I can make all these different sauces. Yeah. I like making sauces.
big sauce
like
guy.
Steak, yeah. I don't even care. Some people will hate this steak. I don't even care how good the steak is. I'm gonna put A1. I'm gonna put A1 on it. I don't care.
Grade A steak.
Grade A steak.
A1 is coming right on.
I had an awesome filet mignon last night. Birthday filet mignon covered in A1 sauce. I don't even care.
And they're just watching.
I would get
like,
crucified. Yeah, I would never put that in a picture. The Instagram thing that I do. But A1's A1, whatever.
Yeah, I love A1 too, and I don't think it ruins a steak. I mean,
well, you talk to certain
I know.
people.
Yeah, I know. You're talking about like the your steak and beef aficionados are probably like, well, you shouldn't have to put A1 on it because you cooked it right. And you're like, yeah, but I still like A1 sauce.
Yeah, it's more the A1 sauce. I just don't want to just have a spoonful of A1. So I'm like, at least I got a steak with it.
Yeah,
whatever.
So that's cool, man. And I know you're saying that you haven't really brewed in a while, and you've kind of turned more to the baking and cooking. Do you find yourself that you just don't have the time to brew stuff, or is it more so that the interest in brewing stuff is not as high?
No, not at all. I love brewing. I love doing it. It's just the time. Like when you bake bread, you can have probably like you have 15-minute increments where you got to be there. You can kind of put it away. Brewing, you have to like be there, like 4 hours dedicated time of. Oh, there's 4 hours dedicated time. Just like you can't do anything else because the minute you look away, it's like anything. You look away, it's gonna start boiling over or whatever. You have to be there for 4 hours. So yeah, it's definitely the time with the kids, and it's like I don't want to do it at nighttime or whatever when, you know. So, but no, I have not lost. I still research it, still talk about it. You know, I do love it.
Yeah, and like I know that when you first got on the department, that was a big thing, and I remember coming over here tasting a lot of your beers.
Yeah,
and
I can't wait to start making them again.
And they were delicious. They were delicious beers.
All right, they're not bad. The ciders.
I was gonna say, you were making cider. Are you still making cider, or
yeah? So my wife's father, he makes apple cider, like not the hard cider. He has like I would say a small apple orchard. Some years, because how apples work, it's every like bi-yearly, so you'll get like a big year, then you get a smaller year. So he'll get like 250 bushels, which would be like a good amount of half gallons, 250, 300 half gallons of stuff. So giving me 12 gallons making cider with it, and it's like fresh from a farm. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I consider it a farm, but
yeah, no, I mean orchard, whatever
fresh,
you want to call it.
Great, yeah.
Local, you're organic.
It is, and honestly, like a lot with the cooking too. He does gardens, he does all these things. So I get tomatoes, like all the, I made the pizza today. The peppers, the tomato sauce, the dough, everything. It's all from, the sauce and stuff. That's from him because it's the tomatoes. But
yeah,
everything's pretty much homemade, like from scratch.
Nice.
So
and that's really, if you can do it.
Right.
If you can do it, you might as well. If
right.
you have the resources, and the connections, why not?
Why not do it?
Instead of going to the grocery store and be like,
But once again, it does come down to time. I don't know how many pickles the guy gives me. I end up, or cucumbers.
Cucumbers.
I make pickles out of it, and it's great. It's another time-consuming thing. Though, that you're just like, all right, I have all these things.
So
I got to do something with them, or they're just gonna, go bad. So.
Yeah, and that's cool. I wish like I had more. I do. A coworker of ours has his own beef farm, and I do get a whole cow from him basically every year. Me and a couple other of my buddies split a whole cow because we're talking like 500 pounds of meat. So,
it's a lot of cow.
So we still, even with
it's a lot of cow.
Even with it being 3 people, you're still gonna get a good amount of a beef. We're getting you're talking like each guy gets like 40 pounds of ground beef. You're getting whatever cut, if it's a T-bone, porterhouse, things like that.
That's
you're getting a lot of that.
Great meat too, though. Like that's
oh yeah,
stuff.
Grade A, locally here, Ludlow.
Great stuff.
Farm raised, everything, and it, like you said, it's good to know the people and like where your stuff is coming from, because then that, all right, it was these people, like these cows are like out. They roam, they live a good life, and then they serve a purpose, and that's kind of where you're at,
Exactly.
And again, there's like something about it. It's different. The taste is different, instead of going to like your local grocery store and like grabbing a steak or grabbing ground beef. This is like, you can taste the difference between.
Yeah, it's not pumped full of
like antibiotics or whatever the hell they're putting in it, growth hormones and stuff like that. Like we know, like I said, we know where it's coming from, and it's I think that's important to me, as much as it's important for me to support, friends and coworkers in their endeavors. So I totally get the whole local
great.
Food, local stuff.
It's cool to see too. A lot of restaurants you go to. When you go to a restaurant, you sit down, you have the food, you leave. It's like that's what you do. But like the knowledge that most of them do know their farmers, know where they're getting stuff. Higher end, not high end, but like even the medium ones. Like a lot of the people know where their stuff's coming from. They talk to these people. restaurant in Amherst I worked at, and, you know, given bread recipes for, like, that's their communication with everybody. They know what's going into their food. They know where they're getting it, and it's cool. And you can taste that on the table, and it's just, the food's better, the quality's better.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been pretty exciting for you to get your product out there, right?
Yeah.
You
so
know?
my good buddy, he had, it was two other people. They were going to make they had a plan to start a restaurant. They ended up getting an investor. Investor wanted it, and there's a building downtown Amherst, restaurants protocol, and they ended up, you know, running the place. My buddy was like, hey, I know you're into bread, you do stuff, let's create a burger bun that's, you know, for the sandwiches. So it was kind of trial and error and looking for something that can hold up to use for multiple different sandwiches, that you know, it's got to hold up to moisture, it's got to hold up to all these different things, be quick to use, not go bad. You can, very versatile bread. So I went through several different things. We made a bunch of sandwiches, we did them, and then that's their main bun over at the restaurant, and they've been using it. They're selling out and doing great now.
Yeah, that's great, man.
It's great. And I was down there, I was making them there for them for a while. Of course, you know, once again, son was born, just that ride out to Amherst.
Yeah.
Pretty long ride, and it was like an overnight, because it's like a baker shift.
Yeah.
You got to have it ready for service.
Yeah, for the day.
It was kind of a little rough, but it's not something that I would say no to again. Like, I loved doing it. I loved being down there. And we've even talked about, you know, in the future, 10-year goals. Like, we definitely want to start something up, because
that would be great.
I still work with the bread. He's the head chef. Like, he can cook. Like, he knows what he's doing. And we have plans for just like nice little deli thing, and it'd be cool to see.
Yeah,
we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, nice, man. I mean, it's good to have like that goal, and like you said,
it's a dream. It's like, but the thing is, like anything with dreams, when I was a kid, I loved art. I painted, I did these things, and I sold a couple of pieces of my artwork. People liked it, but guess what? Once you start selling and you start making money off stuff, you're like, all right, for some reason, it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, it becomes like a job.
It becomes a job
instead of a joy or a hobby or whatever you want to.
I didn't lose that with the bread, but I got a lot of talks about, why don't you have a brewery, all this, and it always crossed my mind. But I was like, it's kind of just a hobby. Like, I want it to be a hobby.
You want it to stay that way.
Yeah, I don't ever want it to really be the job.
Yeah.
Because I've met brewers. I know a couple of them, and it's a job now.
Yeah.
Of course, though, there's those people that love that, though.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, this is. I feel like how my mind is, I would always be like, all right, now it's a job. I want to do something else, and so I don't ever want to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, and that's understandable, because, like you said, it's it's a hobby, and you enjoy it. It's like more of the joy. And I not to keep referencing back to my my reselling, but that started off same thing. It started off as a hobby, and then it kind of became a second job. And like, in order for me to keep it like fun, I have to like sell the things I like. Like, I have to sell comic books. I have to sell, vintage toys, vintage whatever. Like, I have to. That's how I keep it. That's how I keep it. Yeah. Everybody loves to crack open one in front of the mic.
I want to hear it. I want to hear that crack.
So, I would say I totally understand, and like, it is tough to keep something like that you enjoy, and then when it becomes a financial thing, to keep it, enjoyable.
It's funny, because it ties back into like the fire department, and why I like actually working there is because even though it's tiring sometimes, but the randomness of what you get, you're like, all right, I have no idea what we're going to expect today. So
yeah, and that's great. I think that's a lot like everybody else. That's like the allure, I think, of it sometimes for people is, one day you could do, a bunch of the same medicals and whatever, and then the next day you're doing like crazy car wrecks and house fires and whatever, and that's you don't know what you're getting into, which is both the enjoyable part and the scary part of firefighting, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so besides the brewing, do you have anything else in the works? Or are there any other things besides the baking and the brewing that you're looking to get into, or you're just kind of sticking to these two things? And
No, I'm sticking to these things. Like this, in the long goal, trying to, like I said, Buddy and I try to do something eventually. A lot of reading, a lot of going into like bread, and like it sounds simple, like, oh, how much really is there? Well, there's actually a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with beer. Like, there's so much different complexities with each of them that that's why there's books and books and books about it. You can only read so much, so it's just, I like to just make it and see what happens. But I'm just not focusing. I focus on my actual job, the fire department. These are, of course, hobbies I focus on after the fact. Just want to get that straight.
Yeah.
But there's so much to go into. There's different types, how to do it. Like cooking, I don't use recipes. Bread, you have to. It's a science. Like, I got some burnt into my head, but you still mess it up if you don't. So like, that's what's kind of cool about it. Like, no matter how good you are, you'll see head chefs have been cooking the same. They still have their little ingredients list for like a simple bread, because
to get it just the way
you'll forget the salt, you screw it all up or whatever. But no, I got a buddy, actually, he wanted me to draw a little picture for him. It's a nice big picture, so I've been doing some artwork, but not as much as I used to.
I didn't know you were such an artiste.
I'm not
I thought
really.
you were just a bread artiste.
I'll show you after. You can give me compliments so I can get that self gratification.
Get that gratification.
Tell me how much you like my stuff, so I feel better.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here for self gratification for you.
Yeah.
So other than all that stuff, you're on the fire department with us, and you said, we've alluded to your family life. You have 2 kids.
2 kids, yeah, I do.
And you have a lot of hobbies, and like you said, it is not easy to juggle kids. As I know, juggling kids, depending on how much they weigh, is a tough thing.
A normal person would stop his hobbies. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, and I get it, because I'm the same way. I have the, everything that I do, be it the podcast, be it the YouTube channel, the resell, all that stuff is all like after dark. Yeah. Kids go to bed, and I'm like down in my office just, listing things or getting a show ready, whatnot show, doing all that stuff. So you could keep a hobby, but
and I would say I had the Instagram thing, the Bread and Brews.
Bread and Brews.
I did that for a while. I think I did that for a solid year, maybe more, and I liked it. I was, putting a lot of effort into it, and not that I cared about like views or whatever, because it was mostly, at the time actually when I did it, it was for other people.
Yeah.
And I think that was the issue that I had with it. It became this thing where I'm doing this stuff. I'd be like having dinner with my family and be like, well, I gotta take this picture.
Yeah.
And I could see it. My wife like, and I'm like, it clicked. I'm like, yeah, why do I care what Sally Joe thinks of my frickin'? So I shut it down. I do it more. I still cook just as much. I just still do crazy stuff. I have a bunch of entriments I do from like my daughter's birthday. Like, she has no idea. When she's older, she'll be like, Dad did what? He made this like double layered entriment with mousse and all this. She's gonna be like, oh my God. But
he was so fancy back then.
Exactly.
Now he's just in his garage brewing beers.
Beer.
He stays out there. Why does he never come inside?
Yeah, like my mousse when you were 5.
It all stems back to that, when they're kids and they're destroying your life.
Yeah.
Your dreams. Your hopes and dreams are shattered quickly.
They do.
So yeah, it is, as a parent myself, it is not easy to stay in that groove. But how long have you and your wife been married?
It's a We've been married for a while now.
Okay.
So that's
I mean, you could have just said the year, and that would have been okay.
Yeah, we got married in 2016, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah.
I too was married in 2016.
Could be off a year or two. I think it's 2000. Yeah, 2016, 2017. She's gonna yell at me after this.
I'm sure she won't watch this at all, Corey. You'll be fine.
Oh, she's gonna be watching it 10 minutes after you post it. But no, we've been married for a while.
The Gabbin With Goody Podcast appreciates all the audience that watches and listens to the podcast.
And I believe we've been together for 11 years.
There you go.
I think so.
It's a good time.
So
we'll talk a little bit about relationships then. How do you find yourself, your wife being a nurse, you being a firefighter? How do you kind of tell us how you balance that? You know, when you come in and you come home, to make sure that you guys have time for each other.
Yeah, we don't.
Oh, or is as simple as that, I guess.
No, so during the week, it's she's not just she's an educator, so she's actually working the full shift. She's working 8 to 5 or whatever, the full week. She's got a day off. The day off she has, usually I'm the one working, and we don't have anybody really watching the kids, so it's it's either one of us. So there's not really a lot of time. We try to get somebody to babysit or something, so we can go out once in a while for go to Costco, and that's our date night.
There you go. I hear that.
It is what it is for right now. We got to deal with it for now, but it's tough. But
yeah, I mean, we're in the same boat. With my oldest is now in kindergarten, so he goes to school. Obviously Monday through Friday, and he's there until he goes on the bus, and he's there until 3:30ish, maybe a little bit before that. So we do have some time, but my youngest son stays home. Like you, we don't have. He didn't go to daycare. My oldest son went to daycare when he was younger, out of necessity, because we kind of needed that time.
It's COVID time too, right?
He was there during COVID, and that's kind of when it started. Luckily, the daycare at the time stayed open as long as it could, until it was shut down for a short period of time. Reopened up, but it was shorter hours and less days.
Yeah.
So we were slowly going through our heads, going, is this something that we should keep doing? And then the final thing was we moved. So our daycare was in town in Ludlow here, and then we moved, and it was, for a little bit we kept him in daycare, and then basically that summer of 2020 we told the daycare lady that he's done. We're gonna focus on summer, and he had already got not accepted, but he got approved, we'll say approved, to go into preschool anyways. So we were working on getting him into preschool, working on getting getting these finer things together, like really potty training him, so he doesn't have to be in a pull up or a diaper at
Can't wait.
Oh my god, dude. Our youngest now is, we bought a potty for him the other day, and we're like, we'll see. And my wife, I haven't seen it yet, but my wife's like, he sits on it when other people are going to the bathroom. So he gets it, but
You guys do a group poop? That's it?
So I haven't done one yet, but I'm all for it.
Everybody, come on.
Come on in,
We'll do this together.
But yeah, I mean, he's there anyways. I mean, what are you gonna do? So I get it. It's not easy. And my wife was on the first ever episode of the podcast. Still one of the more popular episodes, and she'll be on again at some point. But we talked about the struggles of, keeping the relationship fresh, keeping it.
Yeah, you get
going.
the three stages.
Yes, correct. So the three. Yeah, you remember.
It.
See, there you go. There you go. Thank you.
I listened to it, should I say?
So the three stages. You fall in love, you get married, you get the kids, and then after the kids move out and whatever, and they get old enough to take care of themselves, you have to fall back in love. But in that phase, like where we're at now with the kids being young, you still need to make sure that you make time for yourself and make time for, you and your wife together. That's a extremely difficult thing, and it's even harder because you always feel bad you're like you're leaving your kids with, your mother or your parents, and you're leaving your kids with your whatever, and they're all like, oh, it's fine, you guys should go on a date night. And my wife and I do have trouble sometimes going, oh, well,
Well, I don't mind. I go. I'm like, yes. I love my wife. Like, I do. I love her dearly. And if any chance I can get to go and do something with her, it's great. Even though when we go, we probably have nothing to talk about besides the kids, and she probably thinks I'm annoyed the whole time, but I'm not. I'm just like, I don't know. I just stressed. So I'm just like, but I do. I love her, and you do. There is those 3 stages, but you do need that time.
Yeah, and there has to stay, like, because it has to stay, I don't know, I guess the word I keep using is fresh, but it's got to stay, you got to actually stay happy with each other, right? Yeah. And sometimes, like, the kids being around 24/7, it is exhausting.
It is.
Yeah, so you're like, you are just drained of whatever energy you have, and you're just like, all right, I can't wait for these kids to go to bed, and I could just relax for a little bit.
Yeah, but and my dumb self is like, and I also had like pizza dough and the thing, I gotta do this, and then I'm painting a picture, I've got this.
I hear you. I hear you, man. I'm down. Like I said, I'm downstairs doing all my resale stuff, and that could be until like 1, 2 in the morning. Yeah. And then next thing you know, I'm like, oh man, I have to wake up at 7 o'clock, or I have to wake up at 6:30 to go to work. So it's, it is tough.
But it's short though. It's short time. Like, it feels long. It's gonna go by.
Yeah, and that's the, I regret saying it in the beginning when I had my first child. Is I used to say, oh my God, I can't wait for him to be old enough to take care of himself.
Yeah.
But now it's like you see them start getting involved in things. Like my son does sports and he does all these different things.
Yeah, you move on. They move on.
And you're just kind of like, okay, I enjoy watching him play sports, enjoy the sports, and that's something that I don't want to miss out on. And I think that with our schedule the way it is, I tell this to my wife all the time. It was like I stay home 5 days a week playing, Mr. Mom. Like I'm there for everything. And like my wife, I think sometimes is like, I wish I was.
I work all week and I come home, I got to do this stuff. Yeah. And they're like, well, I was home. Yeah,
it's tough.
A never-ending
loop. It is tough, but I ultimately, like I said, it is a joy to watch your kids grow up.
Yeah.
And become like develop their own little personalities and start like, driving you nuts like right away.
Like the long days, short years.
There it is. Long days, short years. Yeah, man.
It flies by, but you're like, during the day, like, God, just go to bed.
Yeah, like just settle down for a little bit. And my son is like my oldest. I can't even say my oldest son anymore. Both of my sons are, going 100 miles an hour until they just pass out.
Yeah.
And that is, again, that's just part of parenting. I guess I signed up for that when I decided that I want to have kids. So.
No. It is. It's like something you complain about. Everybody complains about it, but you shouldn't really complain about it because we all knew what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We all knew our lives were just going to be terrible.
Yeah.
After, you know what I mean? Like, all right, I'm going to have these 2 monsters raiding my house, or 3 or 4, some people, and it's like it is what it is.
I'm gonna have a small version of myself mixed with my wife, just running around, just tormenting me for the rest of my life.
Exactly. And it was like we had Luke, and like he had that rough patch in his life. He got really sick, and that was a little concerning. And you talk about long days. That was long days, short period of time though. Like, a couple of times he got his. What it was, he had like a cyst.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about it. So he got vomiting, diarrhea, all these things he wouldn't eat. And he got like, he got really skinny, and we're like, what's going on? Like, he keeps vomiting all the time, and we ended up, having to go take an ambulance. to the hospital because he had some bloody stools and all this stuff. And they're like, oh no, he's allergic to milk. Like, all right, like maybe.
Okay.
And then progressed. He just still randomly would get sick and all these things. And then finally the whole cyst thing came up after months after. And it's a blessing they found it.
Yeah.
Very scary time when they did the surgery and everything. We were like, nervous wreck. It's your kid.
Yeah.
And then after, like, he is 10 out of 10, just like,
yeah. He's a handsome little fella.
He is. Yeah, he's filled out. You look at pictures and you're like, ooh. Now he's
he's a handsome little guy.
Gremlin was that? But now he's filled out. He's filled out now.
And we nothing like that, but I totally get it. There were a couple times where I had to take my son, who had a lot of respiratory things when he was younger, to the hospital. Never an easy thing to bring your own child to the hospital, because here we are, we spend a lot of our time at the ER, and we see the things that people shouldn't see, and then when it's like you and your kid there, and you're just like, oh, this really sucks.
And you kind of, like, I don't know me, but like when you had my kid, and I kind of like forgot everything, and that's why you should never like take care of somebody that you know. Because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do we go to the hospital? Like, my actual medic brain, it's your kid, so you're like, oh, jeez.
I find myself, I find myself in these occasions going, he doesn't need to go. He's fine. He'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. And there was a time where I remember it vividly. I was like, my son had a really bad cough. He was like, I want to say he was like 1 or 2. He had a really bad cough. It was like super junky. And I'm like, man, there's something. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, he's got pneumonia. In my head, I was like, he absolutely has pneumonia. But for some reason, I was like, no, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. And then one day, he was beet red, and I'm like looking at him, and I'm like, what is happening? And then we were like going. I'm like, he needs to go. I'm like, we gotta call his doctor or something. So he ended up, like I said, he had pneumonia, and I waited too long, and it probably wouldn't have been as bad. But again, my own worst enemy, I was just like, it'll be fine. He'll, whatever. He's just got a little cough. It's just a cold. Turned out it was, bronchiolitis and pneumonia and RSV and I'm like, oh, okay.
He was riddled with it.
He had literally every respiratory illness you could have. And they're like, your son needs 2 inhalers. He needs to take this. He needs an antibiotic. I'm like, oh my God. And then my wife's like looking at me from like across the room, like shaking her head. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
He was fine.
And she's like, you're a doctor. You should have known this. I'm like, I'm not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor.
I'm a paramedic.
I just got here. I just started my shift.
So
he's not my patient.
But there has been times where I was at work and my son fell off the table, changing table. My wife brings him to the ER. Yeah. So I mean, there's been plenty. My son has been to the hospital more than I have, which is knock on wood, but not recently at least. Yeah. And it was a scary time. So I mean, I can't relate to the surgeries and stuff like that, but I get it. Like I get when it's your child, you're kind of like you're blind. The blinders come up, and you're just looking at your kid, and you're just going, what can I do? But in your head, you have nothing. No. What am I going to do? Because in reality, I don't have any of my equipment here.
No, yeah, exactly.
Now I have his inhaler, so like he gets, that junky cough, I can give him his inhalers.
I love that from family. You go somewhere. Every time I go somewhere with like my father or something, oh, we got a paramedic here. Fine. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm just another guy who can maybe do CPR if someone needs it.
Yeah, I got like a rubber band and like something in my pocket. I'm not MacGyver. I'm not gonna do anything. Like I have no idea.
I can only do so much with my credit cards and license that I have on me.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, my wife was like notorious for that. When we were dating, she'd be like, we saw a funny story. So we're going up East Street, upper side of East Street, past like Tower Road, whatever. And I know everybody that's listening to this, besides the people from around here, I know absolutely nothing about what I'm talking about. But whatever, we're up there. I'm on the motorcycle. My wife's on the back. At the time, girlfriend's on the back. And I'm driving. And all of a sudden, there's an accident right in front of us.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay. You know, everyone's out of the car. Everyone's fine. They're walking around. It's like a very minor accident. What does my wife say? He's a paramedic.
Yeah.
He's a paramedic. I'm like, shut up. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no, don't say that. And then I just literally drove around them. And I mean, but they were fine. I mean, there was no need for any medical intervention. Not that I could do any medical interventions.
No, a very similar situation. I was at the mall with Mary, and this is before EMS, so she was already I think she was already a nurse. She's been a nurse for a very long time, and I had no concept of medical stuff. So we're at, I forget what place it was, but somebody was having a seizure. So they already had somebody holding the head there, you know, the person seizing. Everything was done appropriately. I didn't know that. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is freaking out and dying. And I was like, my wife's a nurse. Mary, what are you doing? And she's walking by, and I'm like, Mary, why aren't you helping? She's like, I can't help them. I'm like, you're a nurse. You're a nurse. She's just like, they're fine. I just couldn't understand it.
Yeah. No,
Fast forward now, I'm like this.
You're like, oh, please no.
Yeah, I walk
You're doing the quote unquote paramedic wave as you go by. Oh no, sorry.
Don't even look.
Don't draw attention to me. I'm not a paramedic today.
I don't know anything.
So I mean that's too funny. That's too funny. So family life, kids, you know, everything's good. Everything's great. Let's talk a little bit about comic books.
I like comic books.
Yeah, I too like comic books. Corey, to believe it or not, you are the first person on the podcast that I can actually talk comic books with.
Oh my God, you must be in heaven.
So now this is going to be a great part of this one. So my good friend Corey here, one of the first things and one of the first collections that I like to say curated was my good friend Corey here's
the
Web of Spider-Man run.
Yeah.
And I will say that there's nothing more that I like than, you know, helping my buddies have like the collections that they want. We have since completed that collection.
Yeah.
Completed that series, I should say. And there were times there where, you know, there's some few keys in there that are pretty significant.
There's some expensive ones in there.
So
it was a nice thing though.
We made a good time out of it, and I have since then curated other collections. That's not my buddy Jim was on, but we didn't talk about comics. We talked about his growing up together, so that he could have talked about it. He's another individual that I helped out with a collection. He is a graded comic collector, so he has a wall.
That's expensive.
It is. It can get expensive. It is. He has a wall in his man cave / office that is just graded comics. Like it's covered from the bottom all the way to the top. That's to awesome. His room is covered with graded comics. He collected and I brought this up on my other people who watch the Goodies Resale YouTube channel will also have seen some of the books that I've gotten for him through CGC when they come in. But it took a good amount of time because he wanted Alex Ross timeless villain variants. He wanted all of them. There's 37 covers. That's a lot of covers.
That's a lot of covers.
So he got 37. That's one more than 36. Exactly. So he got we were getting them like, I found a guy on eBay. I found another. I got a lot of friends in the comic book community that, through Whatnot, they, you know, asked a bunch of my friends. I was like, hey, you know, I'm looking for these Alex Ross timeless variants. Do you have any? I was getting some here and there. And then I found a guy, a place on eBay that was selling them for like super cheap for what they were. And I was getting like 3, 4, 5 at a time. We were getting 9/8. He wanted all 9/6 and above. So I want to say the majority of them that he has are 9/8. But again, 37 of them. And then on top of it, he goes, not only do I want those now, but to complete my wall, I want to have other comics graded that have that character on the cover.
Jeez.
So we were grabbing books that had, Kingpin cover, because they were all these Spider-Man characters, Venom covers and stuff like that. So I was grabbing all these different covers, and finally, whenever it comes in, this one of the last books that I sent out to CGC to get graded, he has 5 or 6 of them in there that are for the wall, and his wall is done.
That's crazy. It's like an addiction.
It is.
It's not like it is.
It is, yeah.
Especially when you're trying to accomplish something like that.
Yeah.
Like when the reason I got the web of is Catherine. Catherine loves Spider-Man. So for some reason I'm like, let's start comic books. And there was a cool one. I think the first one I asked you and I saw it. I'm like, all right. And then I think it stemmed. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna get her the whole set.
Yeah.
But then it turned into me wanting to finish that set, and I'm like, no, I want more. I want to give me more.
I mean, and we say 37 was a lot, but I think Web of Spider-Man's 126 or something like that, 27.
No, it's more than that. Is it 164?
Oh, come on, no, it was not that much, was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, well, whatever. That's still a lot.
Yeah,
it was a lot of books. But again, same thing. Like I said, I had a lot of friends on Whatnot. And I was able to get chunks of books at a time, and we were just rifling through it, until we got to those bigger keys, and I was like, hey, yeah, I don't want to alarm you, but this one's $75. And you're like, okay, I guess if I need it, it's the only one I can get.
Exactly. I need it.
Yeah, so it's the first,
But then it turned into what? Then I go into all right, well, I want the first one, I want this one that has this one and graded, and I want this one graded, and then it turned into nonsense.
Yeah, man. I mean, I totally get it. Again, as people can see on my Goodies resale channel, my collection too is vast. My Batman books, I have all these significant keys. I've been making my, what I like to say, I've been making my collection work for me. So I have been getting rid of stuff and trading in stuff for bigger keys. Most recently, I got the first Silver Age appearance of Two-Face.
Ooh.
So that's a fairly big book.
Yeah.
And then before that, I had gotten Batman 251, which is the Neil Adams Joker cover, which is my all-time favorite cover. And
do you have on the wall? You have that on the wall?
Yeah, they're all. So those two are on the wall in my office. So I keep my bigger keys in my office, and the other ones I have another wall that's bigger. But those are some of just my favorite covers. That some of them are keys. I have the first Bane. I have the issue where Bane breaks Batman's back. I have that one. Yeah, I got that one. A couple first random villains the Eraser, the first Eraser, which is just a hilarious cover, and I love it. I'm on the hunt now for Batman 237. It's the first Reaper, the Grim Reaper's on the cover. If you saw it, it's another Neil Adams cover, and I had a chance to get it recently, but the condition was not quite where I wanted it to be.
Yeah, there is having that filler one, but then it's you still want it.
Well, the problem was, I mean, again, a great place to go to in the area. Has been collectibles and toys. I think I always call it Has Been Comics and Collectibles, but I think that's not right. But it's right in Wilbraham on Boston Road. The guy there, Rick, he's a great guy. He's been on other YouTube channels and everything with Lunch Money Comics, who's another YouTuber. He's another local YouTuber, so had been on his channel a bunch of times. But there's been, I went there and he had the book, and I looked at it and I'm like, it's not quite what I want.
Yeah.
The staples were kind of loose, and he's like, yeah, the condition's pretty. I mean, he'll work with you, so he's like, yeah, I think it was $130. And he's like, well, if you wanted it now for $100, I'll give it to you. And I'm like, yeah, the deal's good, but I'm like,
for one that's got some staples.
Yeah, and I was and that's why it was tough. And if I would have had trade in, I didn't bring anything, I just stopped there. I would have, if I had some stuff to trade in to kind of like bring it down a little bit more, I probably would have. But I thought I could get a better copy of it, and I think that's why I didn't bite.
Yeah.
Again, he's always willing to work with people, and he's a great guy. I take my books there that's where I got the Batman 251 and the first Silver Age Joker, the first Silver Age Two-Face. I got those books from him, from a trade, basically. One of them basically fully a trade, and the other one trade with some money. But yeah, so comic books, good stuff. You know, I'm happy you're happy with your collection.
I am, yeah. And once Luke develops a sense of whatever superhero he likes, like, I'm just gonna feed off that and be like, yeah, I'm doing it for him.
Yeah, this is for him.
This is for him.
Yeah, he really likes these things.
It's probably gonna be Spider-Man.
Spider-Man again. God. He really likes Amazing Spider-Man. I know there's 7,000 copies of issues of Amazing Spider-Man out there, but he really likes that one. I think that's his favorite version.
So it's only $200,000. It's fine, which is crazy. Some of these comic books are insane in the prices that they have.
It is.
It's a coloring book that somebody did, and they're like, no, this is
$15,000.
But
yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like I've kind of come to my just to kind of wrap it up here a little bit. I came to my to the realization that I'm never going to get like a Batman #1. It's just never going to happen. It's like $1 million.
Never going to happen.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. So, and that sucks because like my two favorite characters, you know, Batman and Joker, that's their first appearance, and it'll just never happen. So
we could become thieves.
Yeah, it'll be great.
I would look great in a really tight black
really
suit.
Everything black looks great.
Yeah.
But like I said, all right. So Corey, we'll wrap this up a little bit. First off, thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for opening up your home. Thank you for cooking the pizza. It was delicious. Thank you for the brews.
Good pizza.
I enjoyed the drink as well. And hopefully we can have you on the podcast again.
Yeah, a little more prepared next time. I was a little.
You did just fine. Stop it.
Okay.
But just like this episode,
that's self-gratification. Exactly.
You did fantastic.
Tell me I did great.
You did fantastic, Corey.
Tell me my food's good.
How many more compliments can I give you? Your hat looks nice. Your shirt's nice.
No, don't talk about my shirt.
Don't talk about that.
Don't talk about that.
But anywho, just like this, and every other time on the podcast, you can expect all sorts of great conversations here and on the next one at Gabbin With Goody's Podcast.